Hi, my name is Hillary Kimball, and I met Carl when I was doing a yoga teacher training, and he came in and did a couple sessions with my group on different teachings in yoga. And I've also been going to his discussion groups at his house every week, where we talk about different texts. And he's now giving a workshop integrating yoga asanas and philosophy and different teachings. And so what is this workshop all about, Carl?
Yeah, I'm excited because it's a way to offer the self-study we get from the text, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is, with what we do in asana. I'm excited just to be back teaching a workshop. The workshop is starting March 16th. It's 4 Saturdays. And so each session will have an hour of discussion, like we do in our weekly chitta-chats. And there's videos online to get a taste of what the philosophy discussions are like. Philosophy is not quite an accurate term, and we can talk about why that is, but really it's conversations on tools for how we arrive at our sense of self. And how that is then brought into our asana practice, or is our asana practice reinforcing other ideas about our sense of self, which often might be around feeling inadequate physically, insecure about aging, a lot of these things where the motivation to practice is this fear or desire to improve upon myself. And Swami Dayananda, one of the teachers who I study a lot of the Vedic texts with, even says, the motivation could be self-loathing. We have a lot of sense of inadequacy in our daily life, and the motivation to fix and to improve we bring often to the practice, and how to shed that and color it with something we can only get in what we call shravana, the listening to the teachings. A lecture format, but that also includes question and answer like you've experienced. Meaning you can't teach the self-study of the text while you're in downward dog. So it's not about talking philosophy and asana. What is happening in the body, what is happening with my awareness in the body, the act of being aware, and noticing who is the one who is aware, and what is my relationship to this body, which I am aware of. What is the relationship to this mind, these emotions that are coming up? This competition, this insecurity, this pride, this striving, this fear of handstand, this whatever. What is my relationship to all that stuff? The physicality and the responses, the stress relief. The one who is aware of all those things. We look in the text for an understanding of this, and then that colors the practices in asana, similar to what we do in seated meditation, which we'll also do. So each class will have an hour lecture, an hour asana, like half-hour question and answer. And we'll be looking at specific texts.
Okay. So something that I'm curious about is why someone like myself, or someone who has not studied anything further than asana and yoga, why would they want to come to this class? How would it benefit either their asana practice or their daily life?
I think, anybody ending up in a yoga class has seen something in the attention required, or something in the tradition where they're interested in more than just the physicality, perhaps out of the gate. Maybe not. But these texts, it's important to see there's not some cultural thing from a different time. Really, it's like if you're studying math, you're going to be studying about Copernicus and Archimedes and Galileo and Pythagoras and all these things, but it's not like you have to become Greek. And it's not like it's the Greeks believe this, right? The knowledge of 2 + 2 we can arrive at from any method. And if we have a good means of knowledge of understanding the nature of consciousness, wherever it comes from in the world, if it's arriving at a universal human truth, the knowledge is not culturally specific, nor is it theological. It's not religiously specific that way. So these are tools to understand the nature, get us to inquire into the nature of our sense of self in a way that's very different than Western psychology and Jungian psychology, and we can discuss and look at some of these things, but the practices are not going to be comparative. We're not going to talk about Buddhism here and talk about Hinduism here, and these people believe this, and these people believe this, and the mystics experience this. But tools to get you to look and inquire into your own self. And maybe I turn the question around to you and say, what is, in the discussions, what has been that experience in your personal response, and then how we take that into asana becomes very interesting. But why is it interesting to anybody? Is because we're all human, and we all have our own struggles and sorrows, and sometimes a desire for purpose or meaning or belonging, or a feeling of isolation, or financial security, insecurity, issues of mortality and remembrance and these kinds of things. So just how we navigate our daily emotional landscapes and our relationships to our ups and downs and our goals and our work and our relationships, all this stuff is in there, colored by our very sense of self is where we start. So the two texts we'll be looking at, the Drishya Viveka, see or seeing discrimination, is a key teaching or pakriya, teaching methodology that we find in the Yoga Sutras, we find in the Upanishads, we find in the Bhagavad Gita. We'll be looking at the verses from the Yoga Sutras that address this subject-object, see or seeing. And we'll be looking at key verses from the Bhagavad Gita to show how this teaching methodology shows up in different places.
Okay, great.
But yeah, how would you say that the discussions have been relevant or not relevant to you?
Well, I think one of the most powerful parts of the group is the meditations that we've done, where I'm really able to witness things that are happening in me and outside of me. So witness hearing when that takes place, and witness smelling and feeling, and kind of gain some space between what is referred to as the essential self, my true nature, and all these things that normally I think are my true nature. So when I feel something, or when I hear something, or when I taste something that I really like, I want to grab onto that. But these discussions and these meditations have kind of helped create some space between those likes and dislikes, and what these teachings and what you have taught me is my essential nature.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of relevance, and different methods will touch us all in different ways. And when you speak of the meditations, we will be doing that, and people attending the workshop will also be, you'll get recordings of the workshops that we did, and as well as other ones, and access to my website where there's a series behind the password for other content and discussion groups, and audio of past lectures and stuff like that. Yeah, and we'll explore sound and singing and chanting in the same way, because any sense perception, like you just described, becomes a tool to become aware that rather than identifying, we superimpose on our thoughts and ego our very sense of self. And any sense perception, thus hearing and song, vibration in the body, a point of awareness, not only is it emotionally pleasing and physiologically healing, but it sets up that observation too to reinforce the teaching. Yeah. So we'll learn some basic chants too to take these practices into your, make them yours. Hopefully the idea is toolkit, so that in your practice, how is the practice reinforcing sense of self? How is the practice an offering? We'll explore what is karma yoga, what is bhakti yoga, what is jnana, how are those all interspersed together. Some of you might have heard things about the Yoga Sutras. Going to kind of demystify these things and make these terms accessible. Teachings of what is samadhi, we'll talk about that and look at that in different forms of meditation. So for teachers also in yoga, this would be interesting, because it'll help with terminology and practices to demystify those things. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Just that as a teacher in training, I think this stuff is invaluable. It goes way beyond just the physical practice of yoga, and I think that either if you're a serious practitioner and especially a teacher, that it can just take your practice to a whole new level, and it's really an integral part of yoga.
Well, it's a pleasure to be inspired to find folks interested in it.
Yeah.
See you there March 16th. And April 6th is my birthday. It'll be the 4th week. And we'll have a kirtan and some kind of event that night after the workshop as well. So look forward to seeing you there.